Hi, friends. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Just close them. I want you to think about the last time you woke up and felt ready, truly ready. Like the day was yours before it even began. Like something inside you had already decided. Today is different. Today I rise. Today I rise. Today I become. Can you remember that feeling? Now I want you to think about yesterday morning and the morning before that and the morning before that one. How many of those mornings did you wake up and immediately reach for your phone? How many of those mornings did you hit snooze? Not once, not twice, but 3, 4, 5 times. Until the guilt of being late forced you out of bed. How many of those mornings did you shuffle into the bathroom, look at yourself in the mirror, and see someone who looked tired before the day had even started? How many mornings have you lost? Because here is the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. And I'm going to say it right now, in front of every single one of you. The way you start your morning is the way you live your life. Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally, literally. The way you begin each day is a blueprint, a direct architectural blueprint of the life you are building brick by brick, choice by choice, morning by morning. And most of us are building crooked buildings and wondering why they keep falling down. I am not here to make you feel bad. I want you to understand that right now. I am not standing on this stage to point a finger at you and tell you that you have wasted your mornings, because I know what it feels like to waste them. I have wasted more mornings than I can count. Now I've lost years, not days, not weeks, years to the slow and silent thief of a bad morning. And I am going to tell you about that. All of it. But first, I need you to make me one promise. Not to me, to yourself. I need you to promise that for the next hour, you are going to be honest. Radically, uncomfortably, beautifully honest. Not with me, with yourself. Because the speech you need today is not the one that pats you on the back and says, "You're doing great, keep going, going." Sometimes the speech you need is the one that grabs you by the shoulders, looks you dead in the eyes, and says, "You are capable of so much more than this." This is that speech. My name does not matter right now. What matters is that I was once exactly where some of you are sitting today. Lost of you are sitting today. Tired. Going through the motions of a life that looked fine on the outside, but felt completely hollow on the inside. Getting up every day, not because I was excited about what the day held, but because the rent was due and the alarm was too loud to sleep through. That was my life. And it almost stayed that way. Let me take you back. I want to paint a picture for you so vivid that you can smell it. You can feel the carpet under your feet. You can hear the sound of the city outside the window. I am 26 years old. I am living in a one-bedroom apartment that I am sharing with a roommate because I cannot afford the rent alone, even though I have a job. I wake up every morning at 7:47 a.m. And I remember that time specifically because I was always late, and 7:47 was usually the moment the panic hit. Eat. I had to be at work by 8:30, and the commute was 25 minutes on a good day. So I would launch myself out of bed like a man whose building was on fire. Throw on whatever clothes were closest, skip breakfast, grab a coffee from the gas station on the corner. The bad kind, the kind that tastes like it was brewed in 1987. And I would run. Not walk, run. Every single morning. And here is the thing, I would get to work. I would sit down at my desk, and within 30 minutes of arriving, I already felt behind. Already felt like I was losing. Already felt like the day had gotten ahead of me before I could catch up. And I never did catch up. Not really. I would spend the whole day chasing a version of productivity that was always just out of reach. And then I would come home exhausted, sit on the couch, scroll my phone for 2 hours, go to bed too late, and set my alarm for 7:30, knowing in the back of my mind that I would hit snooze until 7:47 again, day after day, month after month. A year and a half of that cycle. And what was destroying me, what was quietly, patiently destroying me, was not the job. It was not the money. It was not even the stress. It was the feeling that I had no control. That the day was happening to me. That life was a river. And I was just floating, not swimming, not steering, just floating downstream and hoping I would end up somewhere good. You know that feeling? Some of you are nodding right now. I can see you. And I want you to know that feeling is not weakness. That feeling is not a character flaw. That feeling is a signal. A very loud, very urgent signal that something in the way you are living needs to change. But signals only matter if you listen. I did not listen. Not at first. The first time I heard about morning routines, I rolled my eyes. I remember it clearly. I was watching a video online. One of those videos where someone talks about waking up at 5 a.m. and meditating and journaling and exercising and drinking green smoothies, and I genuinely laughed out loud. I said out loud to nobody in the room, that is not real life. That is for people who have their life together already. That is for people who do not have problems like mine. And that is the most dangerous lie the comfortable mind ever tells itself. That is not for people like me. Because the truth, the real scientific, historical, spiritual truth, is that the morning routine was never invented by the people who had everything. It was forged by the people who had nothing. It was discovered in the darkness at the bottom of the pit by people who were desperate enough to try something different, by people who had lost enough to stop pretending that what they were doing was working. Let me tell you about some of those people. There was a man named Benjamin Franklin. Now you have heard the name. Everyone has heard the name. But let me tell you something about Benjamin Franklin that they do not teach you in school. Benjamin Franklin was not born great. He was not handed success. He was one of 17 children in a family that did not have much. He had almost no formal education. 2 years of school total. 2 years. And yet this man became a scientist, a diplomat, an inventor, a writer, a statesman, and one of the founding fathers of an entire nation. How? Every morning, Benjamin Franklin would wake up early and ask himself one question. Just one. He wrote it down, he said it out loud, and he let it sit in his mind before he did anything else. The question was this: what good shall I do this day? Not what do I need to get done, not what am I worried about, not what is on my schedule. What good shall I do this day? What good shall I do this day? He was intentional before the world could make him reactive. He chose his direction before the current could choose it for him. And every evening, he would ask himself the companion question: what good have I done this day? This is the power of a morning routine, not the green smoothie. Not the cold shower, not the perfectly organized planner. The power is in the intention. The power is in deciding before the chaos begins who you are going to be today. Now let me tell you about a woman you may not know. Her name was Mary. She was a mother of 3 living in a small town in the American Midwest, and she had spent the better part of her 40s feeling invisible. Her children were growing up. Her marriage was strained, and she had long ago abandoned a dream she once had. A creative dream, a writing dream, the kind of dream that whispers to you when you are young and slowly gets quieter as the years pile on responsibilities. Mary hit what she would later call her grey wall. Not a breakdown, not a crisis, just a grayness, a fog, a persistent low-level sadness that she could not explain to anyone, including herself. She was not unhappy enough to ask for help. She was just not happy enough to help. She was just not happy. And somehow that is worse because there is nothing specific to fix. One October morning, her youngest daughter asked her why she never smiled in the mornings anymore. 7 years old. Children see everything. That question broke something open in Mary. She did not sleep that night. She lay in bed until 3 a.m. thinking about that question, and in the dark, she made a decision. She was going to get up 1 hour before her children the next morning. She was going to sit in the kitchen with a cup of tea and a notebook. She was going to write just 10 minutes, just to see. She sat down at that kitchen table at 5:15 in the morning, in the silence before the world woke up, and she wrote 3 words. I am here. And then she started to cry. Not out of sadness, out of recognition, out of the strange and overwhelming relief of finally showing up for herself after years of showing up for everyone else. She wrote every morning after that. 10 minutes became 20. 20 became an hour. Within a year, she had written a memoir. Within 2 years, it was published. It was not a bestseller. It did not make her famous, but it made her Mary again. The Mary she had been before life had quietly buried her. The morning did not just give her time. The morning gave her back her identity. That is what we are talking about. Because this is not a speech about productivity hacks. I need you to understand that. I am not going to stand up here and give you a 5-step morning checklist and send you home, thinking that if you just drink lemon water and do 10 push-ups, your life will transform. That is not what this is. This is about something much deeper. This is about sovereignty. This is about reclaiming the one thing that every single human being on this planet has been given equally 24 hours in a day, and choosing to begin those 24 hours with intention, with power, with purpose, instead of with panic, passivity, and procrastination. Because how you start determines how you finish. Every time. Let me give you a visual, a metaphor. I want you to think about a ship, a massive ocean-going ship, the kind that weighs hundreds of thousands of tons. Now, when a ship is navigating across the open ocean, the captain does not steer constantly. They cannot. The ship is too big. The ocean is too vast. What the captain does is set the heading at the beginning of the voyage. They choose the direction before they leave the harbor. And that initial heading, that first few degrees of orientation, will determine where the ship ends up after thousands of miles at sea. A difference of 1 degree at the start means a difference of hundreds of miles at the end. Your morning is your heading. Your morning is the angle at which you enter the day. And if you're setting that heading every morning in a fog, in a panic, in a daze, reactive and rushed, then you're navigating your life without a compass. And you are wondering why you keep ending up in the wrong place. I want to talk about the science for a moment. Because some of you in this room are logical people. Some of you need more than story and metaphor. You need the evidence. And the evidence, friends, is extraordinary. Neuroscientists have found that the brain is in a uniquely powerful state during the first hour after waking. Your cortisol levels, the hormone associated with alertness and focus, peak naturally in the morning. Your brain is transitioning from a theta wave state, which is the deeply creative, subconscious state you are in during sleep, into an alpha wave state, and then into a full beta wave state of conscious thinking. During that transition, your mind is extraordinarily receptive, so extraordinarily malleable. Whatever you pour into that transitional state, whatever thoughts, whatever emotions, whatever information, will set the tone for the neurochemistry of your entire day. This means that if the first thing you do is pick up your phone and scroll through news about disasters and arguments and everyone else's highlight reel, you are literally programming your nervous system for anxiety and comparison before you have even gotten out of bed. And if instead you give those first precious minutes to silence, to movement, to intention, to something that is yours, you are programming your nervous system for focus, for calm, for power. You are not just choosing what to do with your morning. You are choosing what kind of brain you are going to operate with for the next 16 hours. Think about that. Think about every decision you make throughout the day. Every conversation you have, every problem you face, every choice between the easy path and the right path, all of it is being processed through a brain that you programmed in the first 60 minutes after you woke up. This is why some people seem to glide through difficult days while others are overwhelmed by minor inconveniences. This is why some people respond to stress with clarity and others collapse. The difference. And I know this sounds almost too simple to be true. The difference often begins with the morning. Now, I promised you honesty. And honesty means I have to tell you the other side of this as well. Building a morning routine is one of the hardest things you will ever do. Not because the activities themselves are hard. Waking up 30 minutes earlier is not physically difficult. Drinking water before coffee is not physically difficult. Sitting quietly for 5 minutes is not physically difficult. What is hard is the resistance. Oh no. The internal primal warm blanket resistance that will rise up inside you every single time your alarm goes off in those first few weeks. And that resistance is not laziness. I need you to hear this clearly. That resistance is not laziness. It is biology. Your brain is wired for comfort and conservation of energy. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And when you decide to change your morning, you are going against thousands of years of evolutionary programming, which means you are going to fail sometimes. Let me say that again. You are going to fail sometimes, and how you respond to that failure will determine everything. I want to tell you about a man named James. James was 34 years old, 260 pounds, pre-diabetic, and sitting across from his doctor hearing words that rearranged his entire understanding of time. His doctor said, James, if nothing changes in the next 2 years, you are looking at serious, life-altering consequences. Life-altering consequences. We are not talking about quality of life anymore. We are talking about quantity. James drove home from that appointment in silence. He did not call his wife. He did not call his best friend. He just drove. And he said that somewhere on that 20-minute drive, he made a promise. Not a goal, not a resolution, a promise. The kind you make when you understand that the alternative to keeping the promise is a life you cannot accept. He decided he was going to wake up at 5:30 a.m. every morning and walk. Just walk. 30 minutes. That was it. The entire plan was wake up, put on shoes, go outside, walk, come back. Day 1 was fine. Day 2 was fine. Day 4 it rained and he decided to skip. Day 7 he was tired and skipped again. Day 9 he had an early meeting and the whole morning fell apart. By day 12 he had technically only completed about 7 mornings successfully. Most people at day 12 with a 50% success rate would declare failure. Would say, I tried this and it didn't. Would go back to the old pattern and add morning routine to the long list of things they attempted and abandoned. Let me tell you about mornings in some of the world's most extraordinary lives. Because I think there is wisdom in looking at the people who have done remarkable things and asking, how did they start their days? Toni Morrison, one of the greatest writers who ever lived, said that she woke before dawn every morning and watched the light change. She said she could not write in darkness, not literal darkness, but the darkness of having not yet seen the sky. She made coffee, she watched the sunrise, and in that quiet space between night and morning, she found the voice that would eventually win her the Nobel Prize in Literature. She did not have a complex routine. She had a ritual, a small, sacred ritual of greeting the day on her own terms. Howard Schultz, who built one of the most recognizable brands in human history, woke up at 4:30 every morning, not because he had to, but because he said the early hours gave him the gift of myself before the world wants a piece of me. He used that time to think, to reflect, to plan, not the logistics of the business, but the vision, the why behind the what. Serena Williams, who has won more Grand Slam titles than almost anyone in the history of tennis, has spoken about the importance of her mornings in keeping her mentally grounded through the brutal demands of professional sports. Not just the physical training, but the mental centering. The intentional beginning of each day. Now, I am not telling you these stories to imply that a morning routine will make you Toni Morrison or Serena Williams. Please hear me correctly. I am telling you these stories because the pattern is consistent. Across disciplines, across cultures, across centuries of human achievement, the people who have built extraordinary lives share at a disproportionate rate one habit. They begin their days with intention, not perfection, not complexity, intention. Let me come back to my own story. Because I told you where I was, but I have not told you how I changed. My turning point was embarrassingly small, laughably, almost insultingly small, which is why I think it is important to tell you. I had a bad day, a genuinely bad day. I made a mistake at work that cost us a client. My boss was cold in a way that made my stomach hurt. I came home and the apartment felt smaller than usual. I ate cereal for dinner because I had not bought groceries in 2 weeks. And I sat on the edge of my bed at 10 o'clock at night, and I felt something I had not let myself feel in a long time. I felt ashamed. Not ashamed of the mistake at work, ashamed of the life I was drifting through. Ashamed that I had all these dreams. I had wanted things, big things, vivid things. And somehow I had let them get buried under years of snooze buttons and mediocre mornings and waiting for life to change on its own. And I thought about my grandfather. My grandfather grew up with almost nothing. He was born into a family that could not afford to give him much. He never went to college. He worked jobs that were hard on his body. And yet there was something about him. There was a quality, a kind of groundedness, a solidity that I had always admired without being able to name. I remembered visiting him as a child and always finding him awake before anyone else in the house, sitting at the kitchen table, sometimes reading, sometimes just sitting, always with his coffee, always quiet, always. And I remembered asking him once, I must have been 8 or 9 years old. I asked him why he always woke up so early. And he said something that I filed away in my childhood memory and forgot about for 20 years. He said, because the morning is mine. The rest of the day I belong to the world, but the morning is mine. Sitting on the edge of my bed at 26, holding a bowl of cereal and the weight of a wasted year, I heard my grandfather's voice like it was coming from right next to me. The rest of the day, I belong to the world. But the morning is mine. The next morning, I set my alarm for 6:15, not 5 a.m., not the dramatic overhaul. 6:15, 30 minutes earlier than I had been waking up. I got up. I made coffee, real coffee, not the gas station kind. I sat at my kitchen table and I did not touch my phone. I just sat, drank my coffee, let my mind be quiet. 11 minutes. That is how long I lasted before the restlessness kicked in and I picked up my phone. But in those 11 minutes, something shifted, something small and almost imperceptible but real. I had sat with myself. I had been quiet with myself. And I realized I had not done that, truly done that, in years. I went to work that day and something was different. Not dramatically different, not movie montage different, just slightly different. I felt about 10% more settled, 10% more like myself. And I did it again the next day. Preach. And the next. After about 2 weeks, I started writing during those morning minutes. Just thoughts, loose, unfiltered, barely coherent thoughts in a cheap notebook I bought at the gas station. I was not journaling in the way people talk about journaling. I was just draining, pouring out whatever was in my head so that it was on the page and not rattling around my skull all day. After a month, I added a walk. 15 minutes around the block before the neighborhood woke up. Just to move my body before I asked it to sit at a desk all day. All slowly, gradually, the morning expanded. And as the morning expanded, my life expanded with it. Within 6 months, I had started a project I had been putting off for 3 years. Within a year, I had made decisions about my career that I had been too foggy and too reactive to make before. Within 2 years, my life looked almost unrecognizable from that cereal on the edge of the bed night. Not because of magic, not because of some cosmic reward for waking up early, but because of the compound interest of daily intention. Because every morning that I sat with myself before the world could get to me was a morning where I got to choose who I was going to be, and the cumulative weight of those daily choices reshaped me. This is the compound interest of the soul. You have heard of compound interest in finance. The idea that small, consistent contributions grow exponentially over time. That $100 invested today is worth far more in 20 years than $1,000 invested once. Because consistency, multiplied by time, creates results that are mathematically impossible to achieve through occasional bursts of intensity. The same law operates in human transformation. One great morning does not change your life. 1 hour of intention one day does not rewire your brain, reshape your habits, or transform your character. But one intentional morning followed by another, followed by another, followed by another, followed by another, compounding over weeks and months and years, does something that nothing else. It makes a new person, not the person you pretend to be on social media, not the person you are when everything is going well and life is easy, the person you are in the quiet, the person you are when no one is watching. The person you are 5:30 in the morning when the world is still asleep and the only voice in the room is your own. That person, built morning by morning, is the most powerful version of you that exists. Let me address something I know is in some of your minds, because it always comes up and it deserves to be spoken directly. Some of you are going to say, I am not a morning person, and I understand that. I hear it. I even respect the self-awareness it takes to know your natural rhythms. Chronobiology, the science of your internal biological clock, is real. Some people genuinely have later natural sleep cycles than others. This is not laziness. This is genetics. But here is what I want to push back on. Gently but firmly, but firmly. I am not a morning person is often. Not always, but often. A story we tell ourselves that lets us off the hook. A story that absolves us of the responsibility to be intentional about how we begin our days. Because if we accept that our mornings are simply who we are, a fixed, immovable biological fact, then we never have to examine what we might become if we change them. And the story is almost never fully true. I have met people who are absolute night owls, staying up until 2 and 3 a.m., loving the night, feeling most alive after dark, who shifted their mornings by even 30 minutes and experienced a profound change in their days, not because they became morning people, but because they stopped letting the morning happen to them. You do not need to love the morning to own it. You do not need to be cheerful, energized, or inspired at 6 a.m. You just need to decide that those first minutes belong to you. That is the whole revolution. Now, I want to talk about something that does not get mentioned enough in these conversations. I want to talk about what you are protecting your morning from. Because it is not enough to wake up earlier if you immediately fill that time with the same content and the same inputs that are draining you the rest of the day. We are living in the most distracted era in human history. I want you to really sit with that for a moment. Never before in the history of civilization has there been so much competing for your attention. Never before have there been so many brilliant, creative, motivated people backed by billions of dollars in technology and psychology research, working around the clock to capture and hold your focus. Every app on your phone is designed by people whose job title is engagement engineer. Their sole purpose, their key performance indicator, the metric by which their own success is measured, is to keep you looking at the screen for as long as possible, not to make your life better. Not to help you grow, to learn, to build, to connect, to keep you looking at the screen. And they are extraordinarily good at their jobs, which means that when you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is pick up your phone, you are not just casually scrolling. You are voluntarily handing yourself over to some of the most sophisticated attention capture technology ever created. You are walking into a casino before you have had breakfast, before you have thought a single thought of your own, before you have had one moment of sovereign consciousness, and you are saying, "Here I am, do what you want with me." And then you wonder why you feel scattered, why you feel anxious, why you feel behind before the day has even started. The phone is not evil. Social media is not evil. Technology is not the enemy, but they are tools. Powerful, seductive, addictive tools. And like any powerful tool, they must be used at the right time, in the right way, for the right purpose. And the morning, the sacred first hour of your precious finite days, that is not the right time. Guard your morning like it is the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Some of the most successful people in the world have rules about their mornings that are almost fierce in their protection. No phone until after their morning routine is complete. No news until they have had their own thoughts first. No email until they have done something for themselves. These are not quirky habits of unusual people. These are the deliberate, intentional choices of people who understand that attention is the most valuable currency of the modern age, and they refuse to spend it before they have even gotten out of bed. You must protect your morning from the noise, from the demands, from the algorithms, from the world's appetite for your time and attention. You must protect it like it is the seedling of everything you want to become. Because it is, I want to talk about consistency, about the days when it is hard. About the December mornings when the alarm goes off and the window is dark and the blanket is warm and every cell in your body is advocating loudly and persuasively for staying in bed. Those are the mornings that matter most. Not the summer morning when the sun is already up and you slept well and you feel good. Any version of yourself can show up on that morning. The test, the real test of your commitment to the person you are becoming, is the dark December morning. The morning after a terrible night. The morning when you are grieving. The morning when you are exhausted. The morning when nothing feels worth getting up for. Those are the mornings when the routine becomes a rope. Let me explain what I mean by that. When you are at the bottom of a well, and everyone at some point in their lives finds themselves at the bottom of a well, you need a rope. Something fixed, something reliable, something that does not change based on how you feel. Your morning routine, when it has been built over time and practiced into the cells of your body, becomes that rope. Not because it solves the problem, not because it makes the grief go away or the anxiety disappear or the hard thing become easy, but because it gives you something to hold on to. You wake up, you do thing. Maybe it is making coffee, maybe it is stepping outside, maybe it is writing 3 words in a notebook. You do the small practice familiar thing, and in doing it you say to the darkness, I am still here, I am still standing, I am still choosing. And that small act of choosing, in the face of everything that wants to choose for you, is the bravest thing a human being can do. I think about people who have gone through things I cannot imagine. People who have faced loss so severe that getting out of bed felt like climbing a mountain. People who have been through illness, grief, failure, poverty, the kinds of things that don't just knock you down, but make you question whether there is a reason to stand up at all. And I have heard over and over from people who made it through those dark seasons a common thread. They held on to small things, tiny, daily, ordinary things. A cup of tea in the morning, a walk to the same corner and back, 5 minutes of sunlight. The practice of one thing done consistently in the face of everything that wanted to take it away. The morning routine was not their salvation, but it was their anchor. It was the thing that said, even here, even in this, even now, I can do this one thing. And that one thing kept them alive long enough for the rest of life to catch up. I want to talk about transformation now. Real transformation. Real transformation. Not the kind you see in before and after photos. Not the kind that can be measured in pounds or dollars or followers. I want to talk about the transformation that happens inside, in the hidden architecture of who you are. Because that is what the morning really builds. Every morning that you wake up with intention, you are making a statement about your identity. Not a grandiose public statement, a private one. You are saying, I am the kind of person who shows up for themselves. I am the kind of person who takes their own life seriously. I am the kind of person who begins before the world begins. I am the kind of person who chooses. And identity, how you see yourself, who you believe yourself to be, is the most powerful force in human behavior. More powerful than motivation, more powerful than discipline, more powerful than talent, opportunity, or circumstance. Because motivation fluctuates, you feel it, and then you don't. Discipline fades when the cost becomes too high. Talent means nothing without the habits to sustain it. But identity, a deep bone level sense of who you are, is self-fulfilling. You do not act inconsistently with your identity for long. Your behavior always gravitates back toward who you believe yourself to be. Which means if you want to change what you do, you have to change who you believe you are. And every morning that you rise with intention is a vote cast for the person you are choosing to become. One vote is not enough to win an election, but 10 votes, 100 votes, 100 votes, 1,000 mornings of choosing yourself. That is a landslide. That is an identity cemented. You become what you do in the quiet. There is a concept in Japanese culture called kaizen, the philosophy of continuous improvement through small incremental change, 1% better every day. Not dramatic leaps, not sudden transformations, 1%. The philosophy behind kaizen is that large goals are not achieved through large actions, but through the relentless accumulation of small ones. Your morning is your 1%. 1% better at knowing yourself. 1% better at owning your time. 1% better at choosing focus over distraction, intention over reaction, growth over comfort. 1% every morning. In 1 year, that is not a 1% improvement. That is a 3,700% improvement. Because 1% compounded daily is not additive, it is exponential. The math is extraordinary. The reality is even more so. I want to talk about you now, not the abstract you, not people in general, you specifically. The person sitting in this seat or standing at the back or listening through a screen somewhere in the world. I do not know what your mornings look like right now. I do not know what your life looks like right now. I do not know what you have been through, what you are carrying, what keeps you awake at 3 a.m. with that low hum of fear that you cannot quite name. But I know this. You came here today. You chose to be here, to sit in this room, to listen to these words, and that tells me something important about you. It tells me you are still searching, still believing, somewhere beneath the exhaustion and the doubt and the weight of a thing, that something can be different. That something can be different. That you can be different. That is not nothing. That is everything. The fact that you are still looking, still reaching, still asking, means the flame has not gone out. It may be small, it may be flickering in the wind, but it is there. And a flame, no matter how small, just needs the right conditions to grow into something that cannot be put out. Your morning is those conditions. Your morning is the windbreak, the space where the flame can stop flickering and start burning. I want you to imagine something for me. Close your eyes again if you are willing. Imagine it is 1 year from today, 365 mornings from now. And for every one of those mornings, you did something small and intentional before the world got to you. Some mornings it was 30 minutes of pure, uninterrupted presence with yourself. Some mornings it was 5 minutes. because life was chaos and 5 was all you had. But every morning, every single morning, you chose yourself first, even briefly. Now I want you to see yourself on that morning 1 year from now. What does your body feel like? What is the quality of your thoughts? How do you walk into the room? How do you carry yourself? What has changed in your relationships, in your work, in the way you handle difficulty? What have you created, started, finished, discovered? Who are you? I want you to hold that image because that person, that version of you, built morning by morning over 365 days of small, consistent, courageous choices, that person is not a fantasy. That person is not a distant dream. That person is a mathematical certainty if you begin. The only variable is the beginning. Will you begin? I want to tell you one more story. And this one is mine. About 2 years into my practice of intentional mornings, I had a morning that I will never forget. It was a Tuesday in November. I woke up at 5:45, which had become my natural time without an alarm by then. But surely, profoundly and irreversibly, it will change your life. Because every morning is a beginning. Every morning is a door, and you have the key. Every morning, the universe resets and gives you one more chance to become the person you were always meant to be. Do not waste it sleeping through it. Do not waste it handing it to your phone. Do not waste it being reactive, rushing, panicking, drifting. Take it, own it, use it. The world needs what is inside you. The specific, unrepeatable, one-of-a-kind gift that only you carry. And you cannot give the world what is inside you if you spend your mornings making yourself smaller, more distracted, more depleted. You have to begin full. You have to begin intentional. You have to begin with the conviction that this day, this one ordinary, extraordinary day, has something in it that cannot happen without you. That the world is in some small way different because you are in it. That your presence, your choices, your becoming, these things matter. Because they do, you matter. And you deserve a morning that knows it. So tomorrow, not next Monday, not after the holiday, not when things calm down, not when you feel ready. Tomorrow morning, set your alarm for 20 minutes earlier than usual. And when it goes off, do not hit snooze. Get up. Go somewhere quiet and say out loud or just in the silence of your own chest, "This morning is mine." And then let it be. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, the power of a morning routine is not about the routine. It is about the power, your power, reclaimed. One morning at a time. Go get it. Thank you.